So over the course of the past 2 weekends, I have been traveling to the Hagerstown Aviation Museum here in Maryland because the Commemorative Air Force was in town. They had two back-to-back fly-ins. The first weekend featured their B-17G Sentimental Journey, and the second weekend featured their B-29 Fifi. Also on the first weekend was their B-25 Made in the Shade, and this most recent weekend included their P-51 Gunfighter, which you can see here, and it also included their PT-17, as well as their Navy version of the C-47. And I spent the entire weekend, filming the planes and trying to pick out what was the best shot to show you all. And I also did reenacting as well. One of the reenacting groups that I know that reenacts the Army Air Corps during World War II was there. So I was able to hang out with them during these past 2 weekends. Now, the Hagerstown Aviation Museum is a really cool museum. They have a lot of fantastic artifacts and aircraft on display. Hagerstown was where the PT-19 was manufactured during World War II. And they have two of them on display. One you can see here, and then there's another one, both of which are airworthy and they provide rides in. And more famously, Hagerstown is also the site where A-10 Thunderbolts, or more famously A-10 Warthogs, were also manufactured. So yeah, I highly recommend if you're in Maryland, come and visit the Hagerstown Aviation Museum. You won't be disappointed with everything that they have to offer. It's a great location, a great collection of aircraft and aviation artifacts, and you'll definitely enjoy your time there. Now, if you follow me on TikTok and Instagram, you'll definitely recognize this clip here. Anytime those of us who reenact the Army Air Corps from World War II know that there's going to be an actual warbird in town, we like to go out and put on all of our flight gear and take pictures and videos with it. And I decided to film a sequence of putting on all of the gear and flight clothing that would have been typically worn by a B-17 pilot in the 8th Air Force around early to mid 1944. And I'm glad to say that I'm at the point where most of my clothing and flight gear that I use for reenacting is now historically accurate reproductions, including my A6 boots that you see here, me trying to struggle to put on. For the longest time, I had to use a pair of restored original A6 boots, and then I also, for a time, used original 1940 pattern RAF boots. But now there are several companies that are making reproduction A6 flight boots, which was the standard flight boot issued by the Army Air Corps to its flyers during World War II. And I'm so glad I don't have to wear my originals anymore. Really, the only items that I use that are still original are my B4 Mae West life preserver, which you can see me putting on right here, and later on you'll see my oxygen mask, and we'll talk about that in a bit. My flight suit that I'm wearing is the reproduction A4 suit made by What Price Glory. My parachute harness that you see me struggling to put on here is a reproduction made by the Rigger Depot, who also made all of the parachute harnesses used in Masters of the Air. My shirt, pants, and tie are also reproductions. My shirt was also made by Eastman Leather along with the tie, and the pants I had on underneath were made by World War II Impressions. My B6 flight helmet is a reproduction made by 5-Star Leather. The goggles are an old pair of reproductions made by Avarex back in the 1990s. And then you also see my A14 oxygen mask. That, unfortunately, right now is still original because nobody reproduces original A14 oxygen masks. So I'm standing here in front of this B-25J Made in the Shade. So this B-25 is an actual combat veteran from World War II. It flew combat missions with the 319th Bomb Group of the 12th Air Force on Corsica. And I'm standing here with an original B-25 pilot's checklist that was used by both Army, Navy, and Marine pilots during World War II who flew B-25s, or the Navy variation, the PBJ. So this is what every pilot had to learn and go through who flew a B-25. And these were kept especially in the cockpit. These weren't removed from the airplane. They were kept in the cockpit. So that way, none of them were ever missing when it was time to fly a mission. And every pilot learned the checklist of the airplane that they flew inside and out, practically. That the startup procedures and landing procedures and cruise procedures all became second nature to them. So it's really cool to have an original checklist here with an actual combat veteran B-25. Sorry, I had to go quiet there so you could hear me talk about that original B-25 pilot's checklist there. But one of the things that I love about doing Air Corps reenacting is the display tables that we set up at events like this to display basically all of our collections, all the Army Air Corps items that we've accumulated over the years to show off to the public. And the group that I was with this weekend, they do a great job. They know their stuff, and they put out a lot of great items for people to see. We also had a couple of WASP reenactors attending as well, and they had a display table set up discussing the history and role that the women Air Force service pilots played during World War II, ferrying airplanes to the ports of embarkation to go overseas. And, of course, there's the tables that are full of flight gear like you see here. So all the different types of flight gear from early in the war all the way to late in the war. And what was really cool is one of my friends brought along a Norden bomb sight, which you see here, and let's listen to him talk about it. Tell us how you got this bomb sight, Charles.
Yeah, so I acquired this bomb sight for free. A family friend's father had served in a B-26, somehow acquired it after the war. As a child, I would go over to the house for Christmas, and I played around the bomb sight. And I would always tell my grandmother, when I'm older, I'm going to have it. When that family friend passed away, her sister said, anything in the house is yours, and it came home with me. And that's how I acquired a bomb sight completely for free.
So yeah, you have no idea how jealous I am that he got a Norden bomb sight completely for free, but good for him too. It's a really cool piece. And this was the star of the show for the second weekend, the B-29 Fifi, who was world-renowned. Anybody who appreciates warbirds definitely knows about the B-29 Fifi with the Commemorative Air Force. So the impression that I picked for the second weekend was that of a B-29 bombardier assigned to the 20th Air Force. The reason why I picked bombardier was because I was friends with a bombardier who flew during World War II. He flew 2 missions in the 15th Air Force and then was transferred back to the States to fly and train on B-29s. And right before he and his crew deployed to the Pacific, the war ended. But he did go on to fly again in Korea, and he flew 27 bombing missions on a B-29 in Korea. And as you can see, I was given the opportunity to sit in the bombardier seat in the cockpit of Fifi, and it gave me a great opportunity to do some filming of the bomb sight and also the different equipment that's installed in the bombardier's position, including the gun sight, which you'll see here.
His forehead would be placed here. Look through the glass. We've got a little reticle in here. Use the knobs on either side to select the type of aircraft and bracket the wings for distance. The dead man switch that activates it when you're holding it.
That's the trigger.
And then the trigger's here.
You're good. Okay.
And this is the turret sight.
That's correct.
Gun turret sight.
That's right. And that ran remotely through a set of computers that operated the turrets remotely.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And a big shout out to Mark, who you see standing right there in the blue shirt, for explaining how the gun sight works. And I gotta tell you, it was really warm sitting inside the cockpit, and I was sweating profusely wearing the uniform and all the flight gear. But also, remember that World War II veteran I mentioned earlier, who was a friend of mine who was a bombardier? I brought his original case with me, so I'm going to explain it. This case is probably the first time this case has been inside of a B-29 since 1946. Belonged to my friend Robert Brenz, who's now passed, but he was a B-24 bombardier in the 15th Air Force and flew 2 missions, got reassigned to a B-29 crew during World War II, and right before they shipped out, the war ended. But he was recalled to active duty during Korea, and he flew 27 combat missions during the Korean War as a B-29 bombardier.
So I'm glad to be able to bring this in here in honor of him.
Yeah, when I found out that Fifi was going to be in town, I just had to bring my friend Bob's original bombardier case from World War II and bring it into the cockpit. Because, like I said, it's probably the first time since 1946 that's been inside of a B-29. And later on that day, they brought Fifi out to test the number 3 engine because it was having an oil leak, and they fixed it, but they ran it up and to test to make sure that the leak had stopped. So this is a good time for me to stop talking, and so you can just listen to the sounds of the engine as they crank her up and get her started. If you like the video, be sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Leave a comment, and as always, I'll catch you next time.
Okay, I think you're right. I'm gonna stay on. You know what? I'm staying on 60-40 pass.